From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
Now at 5, from the Great Highway to Sunset Dunes, why the battle over a new San Francisco park is far from over.
Plus, the final weekend before a crucial election where things stand in Oakland's race for mayor.
And later, the story of Zorro coming to life on the opera stage in the South Bay, why this production is different. Thanks for joining us on this Saturday afternoon. I'm Brian Hackney.
And I'm Andrea Nakano. We begin tonight at Sunset Dunes, or what used to be known as a stretch of the Upper Great Highway. Today's ribbon-cutting event not only marked the opening of the new park, but also may have reopened some old wounds. The 2-mile stretch of highway closed permanently almost a month ago, but a new op-ed by Richmond District Supervisor Connie Chan suggests that permanent closure may be short-lived.
Chan is considering a ballot measure to reopen the Great Highway, allowing cars on weekdays and closing it down on weekends, just the way it was last month. Thousands of people celebrated the new park. Others considered its uncertain future, and John Ramos has the story.
Well, that didn't take long. In November, voters approved Measure K to close the Great Highway to traffic. But at the time, there was no money or even a real plan for the park they wanted to replace it. Now, 5 months later, they're proclaiming it to be opening day.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Sunset Dunes!
That's the new name of the park, Sunset Dunes, chosen from suggestions sent in by the public. But that's not the only input the public had in turning what was, for about a century, a major vehicle corridor into a place to walk and ride bicycles.
That's what I voted for. I voted for a place that can be open because we just need more space for the kids to kind of just roam around, play around and stuff like that.
You know, the election happened, now it's a park. And we want this park to work for this community.
But it doesn't work for many living in the area. As a compromise, the highway had been closed on weekends since the pandemic, and neighbors complained that closing the road completely would make getting to their homes more difficult and throw weekday commute traffic onto their streets. Stephen Gorski has been a vocal critic of the plan to close the Great Highway permanently.
The park people basically put out a statement saying, I know everybody's had their differences about this, but now you have to come together and celebrate this with us. I'm not in the mood to celebrate this.
There is still a lot of anger over the citywide vote, and a small car caravan circled the block promoting a recall attempt against the area's supervisor, Joel Engardio, who came out in support of Measure K. But Sasha Pixley, who lives just a few blocks away, disagreed with the opponents.
They complain that traffic's a problem, and what are they doing? I mean, I think it's just very selfish. Yeah. Adding a little bit of time to your commute versus this, it seems a very easy trade-off.
But despite the festive turnout, the neighbors aren't giving up. They've filed a lawsuit over the way Measure K was put on the ballot, and a court hearing is scheduled for June 3rd, which may be why opening day was rushed into place, even though Sunset Dunes still has no funding, and except for one new piece of art, plans for the park are simply concepts.
And that's what's so silly. Why did they rush? They're going to have a decision in less than 2 months. If the lawsuit wins and the judge says Prop K was illegal, then it has to be reverted to the compromise. And I think they're trying to think we're stupid, that they're going to say, well, we spent all this money and put art and did everything. No.
Despite the objections, the voters have spoken. And as the city scrambles to create a park, a judge will have to decide whether putting a halt to it is worth overturning an election.
Well, the city says the new 2-mile park is the largest project converting a roadway to pedestrian use in the state's history, Andrea.
Well, in Oakland, a final push for candidates running to be the next mayor. A special election is set for this Tuesday with several campaign events scheduled for this weekend. The front runners in the race are former Congresswoman Barbara Lee and former City Council member Lauren Taylor. The election comes at a crucial time for the city, facing a nearly $130 million budget shortfall. This week, the candidates made promises on what's to come.
Public safety, housing, affordability, our unsheltered population, good governance, and economic development and jobs.
Now is our moment to reclaim our city, to respond with the urgency that is needed to turn things around so we stop losing residents, our businesses, revenues.
The winner will replace former Mayor Sheng Tao, who was recalled late last year. Early voting is already underway. And staying in Oakland, voters will also get to decide on a controversial proposal in the special election, Measure A. It would raise the sales tax by 0.5%, making Oakland's sales tax rate the highest in California. Coming up at 6, we'll hear from voters on both sides of the issue and what it means for your wallet the next time you're out.
Speaking of things being more expensive, an escalating trade war with China had some experts predicting that iPhones could soon cost as much as $3,600. But late last night, the Trump administration said, well, never mind. They issued a last-minute exemption for smartphones and computers. That exemption, a huge reprieve for companies here in the Bay Area like Apple and NVIDIA, whose popular products are mostly made in China. And still coming up, they call it a pink moon. But is it really pink? The meaning behind the name and the best time to see it.
And coming up in the First Alert forecast, this was kind of nice. This is your Saturday. And those numbers are pretty nice. But they're going up anywhere from 10 to 12 degrees tomorrow. This weekend is not equal. The second half of it is noticeably warmer by many accounts and opinions, noticeably nicer. I'll show you what that looks like and how long we'll stay there. Coming up in the forecast.
Weather depending, and it sounded from Darren like things are going to be pretty clear, tonight may be a great night to look up to the sky and see the moon. April's traditional pink full moon will be on display. Now, this is a NASA visualization of what the moon will look like tonight. Actually, that is not a visualization. That's a time lapse of the moon phases for 2025. But the moon will look like that. Okay, a full moon. We spent some time with the scientists at the Exploratorium who gave us a quick lesson on why that was not what the moon will look like tonight, and also on the full moon names. He tells us the pink moon is named after the pink blossom of the phlox flower. Andrea, have you ever heard of the phlox flower? Yeah, I haven't. Well, anyway, it's named after that. It blooms in early spring, but despite its name,
it's not going to appear pink to your eyes. It's not even any pinker to instrumentation any more than a blue moon appears blue. And a blue moon, by the way, is when there's 2 full moons in 1 month. And the second one is called a blue moon. Doesn't happen very often. That's why it's once in a blue moon.
But that's not what's happening tonight. It is a pink moon. It's once in a pink moon tonight. It says every month has a traditional full moon name, typically derived from Native American names, and the next month's full moon will be the flower moon. And speaking of the flower moon.
Yeah, right. I've got no way to work with that transition. It's going to be a good night for it, be relatively clear skies. Look at today. This was a really nice start to the weekend. So there's your view outside, just for an eyewitness firsthand account. That's a live look out over the bay from our vantage point here on the virtual set. We've got a front row seat every day. So that's a great scene. If you look at the temperatures on here, these numbers are pretty close to average. These daytime highs today, kind of like right where you'd expect them to be for early mid-April. So let's show you what's going to happen. Let's get that wide view on the bay again. We're going to switch this out now. I'm going to change the color code. So we'll say goodbye to today's highs. Remember the color scheme on here. I've got to drop it for a second. And instead, what we're going to look at now is the color scheme for tomorrow. You'll notice a bit deeper in the orange and red, especially up here. Look at the North Bay Valley. North Bay Valley is going into the deeper red. Take a look. I'm going to put numbers on here in a second, but first I just want you to see the areas that are going into the low and mid 80s. If you are in shade, in fact, Santa Clara Valley is doing it too. If you're shaded in these reds to oranges, I'll put tomorrow's numbers on. You can see where we're going. Low 80s for the Santa Clara Valley. But come over here inland to the Tri-Valley. And these numbers are going up into the low and mid 80s at times. Look at the North Bay valleys. We can walk that up through Napa and up past Sonoma and get temperatures in the low 80s. You're going to sit here for 2 days. Sunday and Monday are just like this. Here's the thing about tomorrow, being the second half of the weekend, it will feel noticeably different. And if you like it warm, it'll feel noticeably different in a good way. So this is the kind of thing where you step outside and you can tell that things have changed and there's a bit of an improvement, if you like. And I think most people will probably be happy with this. We're not too concerned about any significant heat from that. There's one other thing about tomorrow to take a look at. And when we look at that on the virtual map, I'm just going to show you the futurecast for how we might see a little bit of fog develop tomorrow, especially up there in like Napa. Real patchy. But high-resolution models are kind of pretty consistent with this notion. Tomorrow morning, through Napa, you get a little bit of patchy fog, and that should be about it. We won't really have much elsewhere, and it'll be more sunshine than anything else throughout the day tomorrow. Once we get done with this warm-up, remember, it's Sunday and Monday are both going to be like that. And then for the middle of the week, there's a cool down coming our way. You'd never know it from taking a look out at the satellite imagery because you really can't see anything out there that would stand out. Right here, there's something. And when we switch satellite, look at it on the water vapor, now you see it. Watch that. Little counterclockwise spin. That is coming overhead. By the time we get to Tuesday and Wednesday, you'll see it show up on the futurecast. When we play this forward, we're going to go real fast into Tuesday. All of a sudden, the clouds increase, and then bam, there's rain and snow over the Sierra, seemingly out of nowhere. That's from that weak little area of low pressure off the coast. We're going to be cloudy Tuesday afternoon into Wednesday, and we're going to cool right back down again. Look at that in the 7-day forecast. You'll see the temperatures really take a dive. After the warm up here, look how great Sunday and Monday are, and then look at Wednesday. Inland, you're going back to the upper 60s, mid 80s for Sunday and Monday, and then by Wednesday, Thursday, it's cloudy again. You're not getting out of the upper 60s. Doesn't last long. We're going to warm right back up again, and by next weekend, I think we could see temperatures close to what we have this weekend. By the way, those are the numbers for the Bay. All right, Andrea, over to you.
All right, thank you, Darren. For anyone who thinks San Francisco does not have any soul, well, think again. Hundreds were on display today at Thrive City, and we are talking about sneakers. The Golden State Warriors hosted the community event called Sustainable Souls, the goal to inspire fans to rethink their life of their sneakers, keep them out of landfills, and flip them into real pieces of art. On hand, Warriors alum Adana Foyle. And we don't have that. Boat sneakers returned to the store were also given away for free. And check out this, some upcycled sneakers belonging to Adana. They were size 17, and that's a lot of canvas.
Welcome back. From Carmen to the Barber of Seville. Most operas have traditionally been performed either in French or Italian.
But a new bilingual opera in San Jose hopes to tell a different story, one in both Spanish and English. Laureen Ayub gives us a sneak peek of Zorro.
Every note reflects a story of the past and the present. Conductor Jorge Parodi is rehearsing the music for Opera San Jose's production of Zorro. It is now the opera's second Spanish-language offering, and Maestro Parodi says it will engage audiences on all levels.
There's like sword fights and all kind of fights and drama. It's a very meaningful piece for all of us. First of all, happens here in California, which is very unusual, so it's very rare to have an opera that happens in California.
And very rare to have an opera switch between English and Spanish so frequently. But Maestro Parodi says that is what makes this production of Zorro so magical.
It makes it very, very easy to understand, maybe because I speak both languages, but I'm sure in this community a lot of people will understand most English and most of the Spanish. So in that sense, it's quite genius.
And according to stage director David Radames Toro, the local storyline is a reminder of California's multicultural heritage.
The fact that it is an American opera that is written on a Latino-American story. The story itself takes place in colonial California in 1811. And a lot of times when you don't study history outside of California, you tend to forget that west of the Mississippi mostly belonged to the Spanish. It reminds us that the Latino culture is an American culture.
As the conductor and director prepare the final details for opening night, Maestro Parodi says the Spanish lyrics, paired with the poetic text, will captivate hearts of all cultural backgrounds.
After all, in opera, the actor is the music, and when the music changed, the drama changed, but we have the text that tell us exactly what's happening.
A text that reflects California's vibrant past and evolving future.
The first show is set for next Saturday. Tickets are available on Opera San Jose's website.
Well, finally tonight, the first signs of spring. Today was the first day of the Northern California Cherry Blossom Festival, held in Japantown, now in its 58th year.
And more than 200,000 people are expected for what is an annual celebration of Japanese culture.
It really is a vibe. It is so fun here. The people are very nice. And SF, today, honestly, it's a beautiful day out.
And you can still see those gorgeous flowers that are there tomorrow and again next weekend ahead of the Grand Parade on April 20th. Are you going?
Well, why not?
Why not?
Here we are.
Here we are.
That's it for us at 5. See you back here at 6.
CBS Weekend News is coming up next. Good night.